I made $4,850 US in less than 7 days from editing YouTube kids content, right? We're not talking about Netflix. We're not talking about some sort of high company product kind of advertisement video. We're talking about videos designed for these brain-rotted iPad kids, okay? And I have creators paying me, one of my clients pay me every single month, 6.4 thousand every month. And then this is some one-off projects that I've got here. This was for 2 projects. There's actually one of my long-term clients. In total, he pays me around 6K as well a month. And here is the recent feedback that I've been getting. I think my favorite one I've ever had throughout my entire career as an editor is this one. Your edits motivate me to record, right? That right there hit a different spot for me. Now, what this all means is what I'm doing is working. Creators love it and they pay me crazy for it. Here's some more credibility that I have. This is some content creators that I've worked for. To answer you, these ones here, they're blocked out because later I've realized that I cannot show them due to NDAs. But let's just say these names here don't even come close to the people that I worked with. So I've worked with some, let's just say, the best, the top of the top of the league when it comes to my niche, okay? So a little bit about me. 2 years ago, I was making the same mistake as every editor. I would take on more work than I could handle, had months where I made 5 to 8K USD, which for most is great, but I was burnt out, stressed, was losing my social life and other life commitments, and instead of having the financial freedom that I wanted and was working so hard to get, and so instead I just felt like a slave to my work, right? It literally just felt like a 9 to 5 at that point. My money was simply correlated to time. Then I made a lot of changes to my approach in video editing, and now I'm hitting 12K a month consistently, working only 3 to 4 hours a day, right? So I'm literally earning more than I ever have in my life, and I work less, right? So why am I getting paid far more for less work? I'm going to answer that exact questions in 4 different ways. So let's get to it. So number 1, mindset, right? Now I know mindset doesn't necessarily directly answer that question. However, your mindset is the foundation behind everything I teach and everything that you're going to do ever. So if you don't have your mindset right, you're never gonna succeed and you're gonna have no chance of competing against people like me. Now, mindset is a huge topic within itself and there's so many things to go over. But out of everything I've learned about mindset, if there's the one thing that I'm gonna teach you to help you make the same money that I am, this would be it. It would be dopamine detox equals obsession, okay? To win in this game, you have to be obsessed. Someone once told me that if you want to succeed in something, you have to put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. Meaning, when you wake up, from the very moment you go to bed, all that time you spent in between was grinding and working hard. If you find any millionaire out there that worked from the bottom all the way to the top, right? All of them have one thing in common, and that is the fact that they were obsessed with what they did. The reason why I was able to start earning 3 to 4K a month within just 2 months of learning Premiere Pro is because I completely changed my identity. I changed my brain so that it can be addicted to work. It can be addicted to doing hard, passionate, 12-hour day work non-stop. Okay? This is the kind of level of obsession you need to win in anything that you do in life. Now, when you hear 12-hour working days, deep, passionate obsession and all this, I don't want to scare you off and make it feel like, oh, this is going to be difficult, because to be honest with you, it's not difficult. In fact, it's very easy to become addicted and obsessed in something. To be honest with you, as human beings, we're designed to be addicted to things. And on top of that, when you do become obsessed and addicted to deep, passionate work, you actually start to really enjoy it. It gives you purpose, and it's genuinely really helped improve my mental health and many other areas in my life. And then when you do become obsessed and when you start putting in the incredibly hard work, you'll also start winning and achieving at such a quick rate. Like I said, another example from my journey as a video editor is within 6 months of literally learning Premiere and all the Adobe softwares, I landed a client with over 15 million subscribers, Kwebbelkop, right? An absolute OG legend content creator. I don't work with him anymore, but at the time, that was huge. The grind was paying off constantly. And very early on, I learned that being obsessed led to more reward. Okay, which obviously continuously gave me these dopamine hits, and it rewired my brain to think, okay, hard work, it's actually very good for me. It makes me feel happy. I love accomplishing things. It's making me progress in life. It's just great. It feels very fulfilling, okay? So I also want to speak on dopamine detoxing, because this is the practice that I implemented into my life that literally within a day completely flipped my entire identity, all right? So I want to grab the pen tool and just explain what identity is. Now, one of the biggest problems in this day and age is that a lot of people are lost. Okay, and the reason why they feel like they're lost is because they haven't found themselves, right? I'm not going to type that in actually because I can't write on my mouse, but they haven't found themselves. What they do, they go and explore the world, and they're like, I'm exploring the world, I'm going to find myself, but then after they're done exploring, for like a year or two or whatever, and they start like working or whatever, they come back home, all right, in their little house, in the mum's house, and they're like, well, I still feel the same than I did a year prior. I still feel lost. And the reason why is because there's no such thing as finding yourself. To answer, what I believe is your identity, the person that you are, who you are, is what you do. All right, so this is you, and what you do and the kind of things you do is what makes your identity, is what makes you. And for someone like me that's really struggled with mental health in the past and also don't tolerate mental health very well, I don't know if it's because I've got the Lithuanian genetics in me, and for those that don't know, Lithuania has one of the highest suicide rates in Europe and in the world actually. I don't know if it's because of that, but coming from me, I found a lot of happiness from doing things, from just doing things, that meant something to me and felt purposeful. But why is this all important? Well, because like I said, your identity is what you do. So for instance, right, 3 years ago, before I got into video editing, I was, doing all kind of sorts of things. I would watch a lot of Netflix series. I, loved watching Netflix, right? Got myself a £5 subscription or something like this. I loved music at the time, was listening to a lot of music at the time. I also had extremely bad habits that I'm not proud of. Okay, we'll just put it at X. If you know, you know. And of course, I loved video games as well. So let's try and draw a controller here. There you go. That's, bro, what is that? I don't know. But yeah. And then I also did some pretty good stuff that was pretty healthy for me, like gym. I was also eating very well at the time. Eating well. Okay, I was eating very well at the time. My diet was absolutely peaked when I was 17, 18. I was eating salads and all that, bro. All the fruit and salads you can imagine, sweet potato, all of that, man. So this was basically me about 3 years ago. This was my identity, right? And the issue is, at that time, I still had goals. I still had dreams to succeed, right? I've been hustling. I tried many different things. I've tried becoming a music artist. I've tried music production. I've tried streaming. I've tried YouTube. From the very age of 9, I have made money online. When I was like 14, I made like $500 over the summer through like being a Fortnite coach and like editing for like Fortnite YouTubers for like $5 a video. So, I've always had this kind of ambition to succeed and fulfill my goals. However, as I got older, all my friends, they were going to uni, they had, they had careers, they had a path to go through. But with me, I haven't succeeded yet. I don't want to go to uni. I was in this really messy place where I was like, I really want to succeed. But every time I try something, I just don't really feel like I'm putting in the work that I could be. And the reason why is because I had all of these distractions. I had Netflix. Gym is good for you. Gym wasn't really a distraction of anything that was actually helping me in my life. So I was happy about that, eating well. But then video games was also taking up a lot of my time. And it kind of was this pattern where, I really wanted to succeed and I really wanted to achieve my goals, but I couldn't because I had all these distractions. When things would get hard, my brain would then just fall back into the things that give me those easy kind of dopamine, the cheap dopamine. So here's what I did. After I finished my A-level exams, which was like the worst period of my life, I took a very long break from everything and I kind of let my brain reset and I said, you know what? I'm going to commit into video editing. Let's just do it. Let me just commit, stick to this, go at it and give it my 100%. And to achieve that, I knew that I had to get rid of the things that were slowing me down. I had to get rid of video games. Eating well is good, so I kept that. I had to get rid of Netflix. I had to get rid of things I wasn't proud about. Music I had to get rid of. So then I had all these distractions which I needed to get rid of. All that easy, cheap dopamine, I got rid of all of it. Didn't keep a single one. What ended up happening is I ended up getting a lot of time back. And then I reinvested that time into work. Okay, I had all this free time. Okay, I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to touch any of these cheap dopamine sources. So I replaced all of those things with work. All right. So instead of video gaming, I would practice video editing. And instead of Netflix, while eating lunch, for instance, I would eat lunch, but instead I would watch tutorials on how to grow a business, how to grow a personal brand. And instead of music, I would actually be growing my personal brand. You know, all of my time was replaced by work. And then what would happen is as I work more, I achieve more things. I gain new knowledge, right? So my IQ increases, I guess. Not really, but you know, I increase my knowledge at least about business and about video editing. I would get more clients. My income would increase. Let's do like a dollar. That's not a dollar sign. Dollar sign would go up. I was getting these benefits, and each single one of these felt very meaningful to me. And it would give me that same dopamine hit you would get from video games, but it was different, right? Because it actually meant something to me, whereas playing video games doesn't. It doesn't get me anywhere in life, whereas these things, they do get you somewhere in life. It makes you just feel way better and way happier about what you're doing. So what this ended up doing was kind of building some sort of cycle, right? The same way you get addicted to video games, I got addicted to work, because work, you know, as I put in hard work, my brain realized hard work equals reward then equals pleasure in the brain, which then kind of makes me want to do more hard work, right? This is the power behind dopamine detoxing. You replace all your bad habits with good ones so that you rewire your brain to crave hard work. This is what made me outcompete every other editor out there, and is why I've worked with creators over 100 million subscribers on YouTube. Now, like I said earlier, there's so much more when it comes to mindset, but if there's one thing that you can implement today and do, and honestly make a real change in your life, especially if you're someone that struggles with procrastination, getting on dopamine detox and becoming absolutely obsessed with work and rewiring your brain to crave hard work, will absolutely change your life. Because if you're not obsessed, you're gonna have no chance against competing with people like me. No chance, okay? So next, number 2, simple beats fancy. And now the thing is, I've edited hundreds and hundreds of videos. I don't know the exact number, but I've edited a lot. And one thing I've always consistently found is that the videos that are more simple have always earned me way more money than the ones where they were fancy with the VFX, fancy with the music work, fancy just high effort, you know? The more lower effort videos made me way more money than the fancy high VFX videos, right? When I first got into video editing, I was kind of sold this idea that to earn more, you need to become more skilled as an editor. But the truth is, content creators are not paying you for being a really skilled editor. Being a skilled editor is great, but being an editor that they can trust is amazing. Okay, that is gold. Creators struggle way more with finding editors that can actually be reliable, consistent, communicate well, rather than finding an editor that's skilled. It's far more easy to find an editor that's skilled in Blender or After Effects or whatever. But when it actually comes to finding an editor that's professional and actually knows what the creator wants and does what the creator needs, it completely flips the switch. And creators are way more willing to pay more so they can earn that trust from you rather than earning that heavy VFX work. As an example, there was this client that had over 80 million subscribers. I've edited only 2 projects for him so far. With the first project with him, I actually went for a more simple approach, right? Because the budget wasn't crazy high. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep things simple and low effort. And that's exactly what I did. I edited a video with revisions. It took about a week. It still took quite a while. The pay wasn't that crazy, but you know, in terms of the creative decisions I made in the edit, I kept things very simple, very clean. You know, I didn't waste my time in After Effects doing more work than I needed to, because most of that unnecessary stuff I know doesn't actually really help the video, help retention. And then on the second video, I took more of a fancy approach. I said, you know what, this client's giving me this project. I have a lot of time in my hands right now. This client has over 80 million subscribers. If I make an absolute banging edit out of this content, I was thinking maybe he'll pay me more, maybe he'll give me more projects, maybe I can have an absolute banging looking video on my portfolio. I was really just thinking like this, you know, I can post my edit and, you know, show off how sick I am. So what I did, so for the second project, I went absolutely ham on the music, on the VFX, on the sound effects. I went absolutely crazy. Like I was editing everything in any kind of way. I was being super creative. I think, to be honest with you, in terms of creativity, it's definitely my best project to date. Okay, I even learned Blender. I went in and made like these 2 highly VFX like Blender animations just to top up and make it another level. I literally learned Blender for this project, right, for this client. Here's the thing, that project took me around 3 weeks to 4 weeks to make. I got paid the exact same as the first project, and it literally took me 2 to 3 times longer to make. Meaning I made so much more editing the video in a simple fashion rather than choosing to just make it more extreme, going crazy in After Effects and all that, because obviously all that extra work just takes a lot of my time. And it's so weird because at the time I thought, oh, this second project, like, it's absolutely going to blow their mind. But to be honest with you, they didn't really care, because they're a channel that have 18 million subscribers, okay, and they are growing and they get a lot of views in their projects. They know what works, and the stuff that I did, they just did not care about, because they know it doesn't matter, or that extra effort does not matter. That's why you'll always earn more with creators that appreciate more simple work than the extra fancy work. That honestly, that does not really help a YouTube video that much. Right here, I've actually screenshotted a timeline that I work with a current client that I have. And this is probably, if not one of my most high-end paid gigs I've ever done, because, you know, I got paid $1,250 for it, but it took me 8 hours to make, including revisions, right? Which basically means my rate is $156 per hour. This is the feedback as well, to kind of prove it to you, like, oh, he actually did like this. This wasn't some, like, you know, just rushed project. Like, I did put in like quality time into the project. It was just such a short video. It's like 10 minutes runtime, 9 to 10 minutes. The revisions were super minor. And when you look at it, right, if you pause the video and really analyze this project, you'll realize, you know, I keep things very color coded, and you can see how a lot of it is just copy and paste. As an example, like, if you just look at the sound effects, these all like pink colored sound effects is literally the same color, just copied and pasted, right? Because, you know, this is their vision. I understand their vision. And in terms of when I approached this timeline and when I approached the footage, most of my time was spent into actually cutting it up and piecing it together. The music, the sound effects, the VFX was all just kept simple. It was all presets. It was all just, you know, fitting their style and just keeping things how they wanted it. I didn't need to do any overcomplicated work. I didn't touch After Effects once. Everything was super just simple, you know, super simple animation, super simple just everything. The intro itself, bro, was just B-roll with some like slow-mo time lapse. You know, that's the most I did. And some captions. Like, that's literally all I did for the intro. I spent probably like 10 minutes on the intro. That's because I just make better creative decisions in the edit. I choose what is the most efficient way to get through the project while being able to tell the same story in the exact same fashion. I could have made the intro 10 times crazier by putting in After Effects and making all these crazy effects, but I didn't. I chose not to. Did the creator care? Did the creator ask for more to be done in the intro? No, because they understand the psychology behind the viewers, and they understand their audience, and I also understand their audience, and I understand that, hey, this client doesn't need crazy VFX. This client doesn't need all of that. They're happy with just what I've done here and just with keeping it simple. They're happy with that. As you can see right here, he literally said solid V1, fire emoji. You nailed the style perfectly. Yet it's so funny because it's such a simple edit. However, if you apply this principle to the wrong clients, you'll make nothing. I don't know why I said it like that. Why did I say it like that? Alright. You need the right clients, okay? So I have this kind of like checklist for the perfect client, right? Which we're gonna call the golden client. And this kind of like, I have one client that fits this completely, and he pays me, kid you not, up to 200 to 250 USD an hour of my working time. It is absolutely crazy. It's one of the reasons why I can literally just work 1 hour a day and make 6K a month. Okay, that's how good that client is. And that's why I call him the golden client. What's really funny, he still is just in the gaming entertainment niche, which is funny to me, because, you know, there's editors out there that think, oh, they need to work with like finance education because they're niche YouTubers, because their RPM on YouTube is so much higher. But this isn't necessarily true, right? Because kids' channel also make a lot of money because they get a lot of views, right? So yeah, let's just quickly go over it. So a client that's from the US or the UK. Now for me, I've only ever worked with US and UK based creators. I've worked with some like other European creators. Obviously Kwebbelkop was from the Netherlands. But one thing I've noticed is like YouTube pays first world countries way better than like third world countries, right? So like I know there's a lot of like, I know there's gonna be a lot of you Indian editors out there that are gonna be watching this video. my honest piece of advice is if you're working with your favorite like Indian creators, they're gonna not be able to pay you as much as US and UK based creators, because the amount that YouTube pays like Indian creators from a third world country is so much more less than US and UK based creators. All my clients right now are from the US and they pay amazingly. I think Canada is the best paying country. I'm not actually quite sure on that one. Don't fact check me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know working with like first world country, like especially if you're from like a third world country, a lot of you should really be targeting towards like English speaking countries. Like really target the creators that are in like a first world country, because YouTube is paying them the absolute most. And to go deep into why that is and why YouTube pays these creators the most, it's because of, well, actually, to be honest with you, I kind of want to fix and just clarify fully. It's not necessarily a US or UK based creator, it's a UK US based audience, right? So if you are working with like a Indian content creator, but they're speaking in like Hindi, or they're speaking in, you know, the language, then they're probably going to be attracting an Indian audience. But the issue is, Indians don't have as much of a purchasing power than people from the UK and US, because their average income is far less, right? Let's see, that kind of makes sense, right? So that's why the biggest and most highest paying RPM channels in the entire of the world is US elderly, right? Because their purchasing power is extremely high. So that's why kids channels earn the least, because they're targeted towards kids, and of course kids can't really pay for things online without their parents and stuff, so the purchasing power is way less. But you kind of get the gist, okay? Work with channels that are probably most likely English speaking, because they attract English speaking countries, right? So US and UK, and like first world countries, because once again, YouTube will pay that the most. Second of all, growing channels. So channels that are growing are always obviously a great thing. I currently work with a client, and when we first started working together, it was at 3K to 4K a month, and now it's at 6K a month, right? So, and the reason being is because he's expanded his channels. He's got like 7 to 8 channels now. It's crazy. He just keeps on growing, keeps on expanding, and he just, you know, ever so once in a while, he's always asking me like if I know any editors, and I'm like, bro, just give me more work, you know. And that's what he did. He literally doubled my workload to the point where I edit 1 video a day for this guy, and it's just it's amazing. Honestly, working with growing channels is such a gold mine, because if they're growing, you're gonna grow with them. Huge views. Yeah, I also have another client, and he has a crazy strong audience, and he's getting huge amount of views, and so obviously that kind of just translates into better pay for me as an editor. And then already simple editing. This as well is very important. Like, I honestly personally avoid, I've got it here. I avoid working with perfectionist editors. What I mean by perfectionist editors is like the Mr. Beast quality level of editing. And it doesn't have to necessarily be like Mr. Beast style, but there's a lot of different content creators that I worked with that are like what I like to call perfectionists. They're very like, they're the type of people to kind of look over the edit and be like, yo, like give you like thousands of revisions and make you do these like tiny adjustments and make you do these like very specific things, which as an editor gives you way less creative control, and instead a lot of your time is just invested fulfilling each and every single one of those notes. And what ended up happening every time I work with a perfectionist content creator, the videos do tend to look way better, and the quality and is a lot better, it's a lot higher. But the truth is, I get paid way less. I get, like I said earlier, right? When I said simple beats fancy, right? It kind of correlates the same way. This is why I just don't work with perfectionism, because they make you do all these countless, like genuinely pointless revisions that I just don't really feel like serves the audience much at all. But to be honest with you can't really blame them, because they are spending thousands and thousands, you know, investing into editors, you know, so for them it feels like a big investment, and so that's why they make the editors do so much work. But then you just end up becoming a slave to their projects, a slave to just effort, and all your time is just spent editing their videos. And in reality, you're just earning less than what a normal 9 to 5, you know, could get you in a grocery store. So one thing I've always noticed is that the creators that I work with now that are paying me absolutely crazy for my time is just because their editing is super simple, and I've become so quick at editing their videos that I'm just making bank, bro. I don't only need to work a few hours a day, and I'm easily passing over 10K a month. It's crazy. So next, number 4, we got high rates and high trust score. So first of all, I want to define trust, okay, and what trust means in the game of video editing. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that content creators prefer an editor that they can trust over an editor that's really skilled. And that's because they're running a business, and the biggest bottleneck for them in their business is an editor. And if that editor can't communicate, can't be consistent, can't be reliable, can't actually execute the creator's vision, then their business cannot run effectively. And in fact, it can just slow them down. And that's why clients are willing to pay way more for an editor that they can trust, because of the feeling of fear. The fear of losing you as their editor. If they lose you, their business is going to take a huge crash. They're going to have to find someone else to replace you. That's why I've been able to increase rates for so many of my current clients, because of the feeling of fear. They don't want to lose you. You've been so good to them. You've edited such good, whoa. That sounded kind of crazy. That sounds kind of crazy actually. But you know, you've done so much for them and for their channel and for their videos, and you've been able to help them scale so much that them losing you just because they can't accept your new high rate, for example, that you've given them, will give them extreme amount of anxiety and fear. And that sometimes is enough for them to just keep you as their editor. Trust me, finding an editor that you can trust is really, really, really difficult, which is exactly why I've never worried about saturation ever, because so many content creators struggle with this, with actually being able to hire someone that they can trust, okay? So now that I've explained trust, let me explain what trust score is. Trust score is my definition for how much a client trusts you before ever working with you, right? Because before a client ever works with you, they need to kind of develop some sort of trust, right? For instance, if you are a content creator and you received an email from an editor and they were saying like, yo, I really want to work with you, I really like your videos, can I edit your videos? I know a little bit about Premiere Pro and all this. Your trust score for that editor is going to be really low. There isn't really much of a reason for the content creator to look at that email and be like, why should I trust you to run a big proportion of my business? Once again, these creators, the editing process is such a huge process. It's, if not, I personally think what takes the absolute longest and is the most draining process in the entire process of actually packaging and finalizing a YouTube video. It takes such a long time, and that's why it's such a huge pain point for creators. So then why would a content creator look at your email that just has a few words on it saying you're a video editor and that you love their content? That builds no trust with them, which gives them no reason to even respond to your email in the first place. So that's why building up your trust score will increase your chances in being able to land higher paying clients and being able to sell off higher rates. For example, if we use my portfolio, right, which has some of the biggest content creators on this planet, right? And if you look at the, first 4 videos on my portfolio, you see these super recognizable faces. We have Kato here, we have ZHC, right? We've got these super recognizable faces. These are huge content creators. If a creator in my niche sees this, they're gonna think, wow, this editor has worked with channels that are bigger than mine. That alone will increase the trust score so much, which is why my conversion rates at the moment for outreach is extremely high. My portfolio just sells like crazy for my niche. Now let's say you've just started editing, or you only have a few clients but they're not that big, there's not really much credibility. I don't really have a way of selling trust right now. What you do, and the one best thing you can take advantage of right now that most editors are just not doing enough, and it's something that I personally didn't do enough, is personal brand. Personal brand, the reason why people do personal brand, the reason why I'm filming this video in the first place is because personal brand secures business. It makes business safe. It makes business easier to do. Personal brand is where I landed my best clients. Personal brand is the reason why I worked with clients over 100 million subscribers. It's everything. Personal brand has carried my entire career. It is an absolute, such an easy winning edge. And honestly, one actionable step you can take if you're like an editor with like no clients, and this is the best thing I've ever done, and the best thing that you can do is just find some raw footage, or just find any footage out there, maybe on YouTube. That's what I did. I found like a random content creator from the Minecraft niche on YouTube. I downloaded his video, took his entire 40-second intro and did like a complete re-edit of it. And like I did this, like I spent like 5 hard working days on the edit. I eventually posted it, and it is the reason why I've been able to land Quebblecob with 15 million subscribers and so many other content creators that allow me to get up to that 4K a month within just a few months into my video editing career, and absolutely skyrocketed. And then of course that eventually snowballed me into now where I'm worked with literally the biggest names on YouTube and have been paid crazy amounts. And so yeah, that's everything. If you really did find value in this video, just do me one favor and leave a subscribe, leave a like. I'm going to be making so many more of these videos. I've got so much to teach, and I really don't want you to miss any of them. So thank you, and have a good one.